This video looks at how you can export your video once you've completed your edit on the timeline. This is a very simple project. It just says 2 shots and a sequence, and the 2 shots are placed within the sequence on its timeline. Just using 2 shots here so that it'll export quickly and you'll be able to see what's going on. Sometimes exports can take quite a while depending on how long the timeline is and how much stuff is going on. Okay, first thing you need to check before you export your items is that this little bar here only encloses the clips that you want to export. Okay, so you can drag that out there if you wanted, and you'd have this black space after your edit, and this would also be exported. If you drag that in too far, you might just end up exporting a small part of your edit. Now, chances are, if you haven't been adjusting this at all throughout the edit, then it will just sit neatly at the end of the last clip. But it's something to watch out for, that if you have accidentally moved this, then you might get irregular results when you go to export. So the next thing you do is just click anywhere away from the clips on the timeline, just so that nothing is exported, and go up to File, Export, Media. You can see that the shortcut there is Command M on a Mac. This opens up an export settings dialog box. And you've got 2 tabs here. You've got your source and you've got your output. The source shows you what the footage looks like on your timeline at the moment, and the output shows you what it will look like potentially when you do export it. So depending on what kind of a setting you have applied to this, then you might find that it might look fine or it might not look fine. Over here you have the formats that you are allowed to set on the video. So QuickTime is a very common file type that can be read on PCs and Macs, so I'm going to use QuickTime. My preset is going to be set to HD 1080i 25 H.264 AAC48. You can ignore the last 2 parts here if you like. These are related to the sound. The sound is pretty much okay. You can be sure that most of these sound components are going to play fine, but for your video to be at the right size and the right frame rate, etc., you need to watch out for these first ones here. So I know it's HD, which means it's 1080 by 1920, so I know that's fine. The I is interlaced, and generally speaking you'll see this on the camera when you shoot. It'll either be I or P. So if, for example, you shot it at 720p, which is a different kind of size window with a different kind of a different way that the frames are created, then you might be down here. But you should know pretty much in the shooting stage which of these you're using. So I know that this was shot 1080i 25, and down here we have an output name. This is where it's going to be saved. So on the desktop I'm going to call this my exported film. Give it a place. If you're on a Mac, if you can't see all that stuff, then you just need to click that arrow, and that'll open up the file directories there for you. Okay, so that's where I wanted to go and what name I wanted to have. You'll see that's then changed. So export video, export audio. Yes, please. I need both for this. Now, when you give it a format and a preset, all of this stuff will change to be updated. Now, you don't need to worry about most of this. You'll see that it automatically takes the settings from this. If for some reason you have some kind of a format like 1080p, then you can change that from I to P down here by changing what's called a field order. Now, this is rare, so you probably won't need to do this, but if you have shot on a camera that shoots 1080p as opposed to I, you can change that to progressive. And then you'll see that this changes to custom because we're not using a kind of a factory default anymore. But I'm not using progressive. I'm using, I'll just undo that. No, can't undo that. So I'll go back to my 1080i 25. Okay. So these are kind of when you're under the hood and you want to make some very specific changes. A lot of the time you won't need to. But down at the very bottom you have what's called data rate. Now this is what kind of adjusts the quality. Now 10,000 should be fine. If you want to, you can bring that up to something like 15,000, and you get a little bit more clarity in your picture. 10,000 is usually okay. Okay, so I can see my output. It looks fine. There's no black bars or anything like that. So I can click export, and you'll see that it starts to encode. So again, this is a very short timeline, so it should just take a few seconds. And when that's done, I can go out onto the desktop and I'll see my exported film. I can open it up and you'll see that it plays quite nicely there. Okay, so this is HD, and that is ready to go up to YouTube, and that's pretty much it. So if you've been shooting on HD, then this is the workflow that you're going to use, but if you've been shooting on something else, then you just need to go back in to this format setting and presets and change it there. Okay, so that is exporting video from Premiere.